Dear students, good morning. I hope you all are in fine health. Today we will revise chapter number 3, Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Before starting the chapter, I must tell you this thing that this chapter is most important for your board examination. So please take this chapter very seriously. Before revising the chapter, you are to go through the syllabus of this chapter, which is given on page 226. The syllabus consists of Prime Minister and Council of Minister. It is the main heading, and we are to study appointment, formation of Council of Ministers, tenure of Council of Ministers, and functions, which include policy making, administrative, legislative, financial, and emergency functions. We are also to revise about the position and powers of the Prime Minister, collective and individual responsibility of the members of the cabinet. We are also to study difference between the Council of Ministers and the cabinet. So we will start revising by questions. So first question is Article 75, Sub-Article 3 of the Constitution states that there shall be a Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister to aid and advise the President. With reference to this, we are to answer the following question. Question A is, how is the Council of Ministers appointed? Okay, so we are to study the appointment of the Council of Ministers. The answer to this question is given on page number 227, appointment. Appointment of the cabinet. The Prime Minister selects her senior and trustworthy colleagues and advises the President to appoint them as cabinet ministers. The President then appoints them as ministers as per the advice of the Prime Minister. So this is the appointment of the Council of Ministers. All the ministers of cabinet are appointed by the President, but they are appointed on the advice of Prime Minister. Okay, although all the ministers are appointed by the President, but they are appointed on the advice of Prime Minister. Next question is, mention any three administrative powers of the Council of Ministers. Okay, administrative powers. Administrative powers. The answer to this question is given on page number 228. On place of administrative powers, we can also be asked about the executive powers of the Council of Ministers. Okay, executive powers and the administrative powers are one or the same thing. So, first point is policy making. The cabinet formulates both external and domestic policies of the government. It takes decision on matters such as defense, economic policy, security needs, president's rule in state, formation of new states, industrial policy, import and electoral reforms. Okay, so all the major policies of our country, these are formulated or made by the Council of Ministers. Second is implementation of the policies. So first point is implementation of the policy making. Second is implementation of the policies. The policies which are made, they are not to be left aside. They are to be implemented also. So in the second point, we are to implement those policies. So how are these policies implemented? These are implemented by the government. through the department concerned. For example, if the policy is made for agriculture, so the Ministry of Agriculture will implement that policy. Okay, so first point is policy making, third is implementation of the policies. So fourth point is coordinating the functioning of the various ministries. So these first 3 points are interrelated with each other. Firstly, we have made policy. Secondly, we are to implement that policy. So there are certain circumstances when the implementation of a policy requires the coordination of not one but multiple ministries. Okay, for example, improving the health services, it is not related to only Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of External Affairs, it is also involved in that policy. So third point is coordinating the functioning of the various ministries. Fourth point is appointment. In second chapter we revised that all the major appointments in the country are made by the president of our country. Okay, yet the president appoints the persons not by his own discretion but only on the advice of the council of ministers. Okay, he may be appointing the the judges of the Supreme Court or High Court, but all of those officers are appointed on the advice of council of ministers. So this is our administrative policy. Question number C. The Prime Minister is the real executive. State any 4 points which justifies his real position. So, Prime Minister is the real executive means he is the all-powerful person. So, we are to write any 4 points which shows his real position. So, the answer to this question is given on page number 230 and 231. Okay, so there are certain headings which are given on this book. First is Prime Minister and the President. Secondly, Prime Minister and the Cabinet. Thirdly, Prime Minister inside the Parliament. And fourth point is Prime Minister as the leader of the nation. So we can write any 4 points from these 4 topics. Prime Minister and the Cabinet. So although the President is the real head of the state, or means all the executive powers are vested in the President, but he himself does not enjoy all those powers. The Prime Minister is the principal advisor of the President. So President, who is exercising his powers, he exercises those powers on the advice of the Prime Minister. Okay, so second point is, we have read this in the second chapter also, that legislative power of President consists of summoning and proroguing the Parliament, but it is on the advice of Prime Minister that President summons and prorogues the Parliament. Okay, so Prime Minister is also a chief link between Cabinet and Prime Minister. Okay, so next is Prime Minister and the Cabinet. So first point is, he is the leader of the Cabinet. How Prime Minister is the leader of the Cabinet? He is the head of the Cabinet. Okay, he decides what kind of ministry is to be given to what persons. Okay, second is power to allocate portfolios and reshuffle the council of ministers. What is the meaning of portfolio? Portfolio means any kind of department. So it is the Prime Minister who allocate departments to various persons, and he has the power to reshuffle those ministries also. Okay, third is, he has the power to select and dismiss ministers. Fourth point is, He has the power to direct and coordinate policy. We have just revised in our administrative powers that administrative power of executive consists of coordinating the policies of various departments. So it is the prime minister who coordinates and directs the policies of various ministries. Fifth is resignation of prime minister. The resignation of prime minister implies the resignation of the whole council of ministers. So next is prime minister inside the parliament. First is he is the leader of the Lok Sabha. Okay, how is prime minister the leader of the Lok Sabha? Because he is the leader of the majority party of the Lok Sabha. That's why he is the leader of Lok Sabha. Second is he is the chief spokesperson of the government. Okay, he makes important announcements on national policies on the floor of the house. Third is defender of the government policies. The prime minister is the main defender of the government policies in the parliament. Okay, whenever a policy or a prime minister comes under attack, means he is under questions from the opposition and of whole nation, then prime minister comes to rescue that person. Next is prime minister is the leader of the nation. How is the prime minister leader of the nation? He represents the nation. Okay, when the prime minister speaks, the whole country is supposed to be speaking through him. Okay, so prime minister decides what kind of relations will India have with other countries. Okay, so this is the powers of prime minister. Next question is, it is excerpt based question. We are to read this question very carefully. As Railways and Transport Minister, Lal Bahadur Shastri sent his resignation twice to Nehru after train accidents. Only once he was persuaded to take it back. When it appeared that Nehru seemed inclined to accept the second resignation, 30 MPs appealed to Nehru not to let Shastri go. They were of the opinion that while Shastri could be lauded for having offered to resign, his resignation must not be accepted as he is not personally responsible for the accident. So this is the excerpt, okay, and we are to read this excerpt very carefully. So first question is, does Shastri's resignation reflect individual responsibility or collective responsibility? So from the excerpt, we are to go on a conclusion that whether it is collective responsibility or individual responsibility. Okay, so when a minister is resigning for any kind of mishappening under the department his control, it is individual responsibility. It is not collective responsibility. Okay, so we will justify this statement from page 232. Collective responsibility and individual responsibility. So what will we write in this question? We will write that the ministers are individually responsible to the president. That is, they hold office during the pleasure of the president and may be dismissed by him or her, of course on the advice of prime minister. Okay, so second is, each minister is answerable to the parliament for the department under his or her control. It is obligatory for him, her, to answer all the questions asked by the MPs regarding the functioning of his department. So it is individual responsibility. Second question is, we are to mention any 4 financial powers of the Council of Ministers. Okay, so 4 financial powers of Council of Ministers. The answer to this question is given on page number 230. Okay, so first is budget, second is finances of the government, third is introduction of the bill, okay, and fourth point, what we will write here, we will write about taxes. So firstly we will discuss about budget. The finance minister, he or she prepares the budget and lay it before the parliament, but on the behalf of president. Okay, second point is finances of the government. The cabinet is responsible for the expenditure of the government. Third is introduction of money bill. A money bill can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha by the finance minister. Fourth is taxes. Although the parliament has the sole authority to put any kind of new tax in the country, but it is the cabinet or the council of ministers which can bring a new tax in our country. So third question is, highlight any 4 points of differences between council of ministers and the cabinet. This is the one of the most important points. So the answer to this question is on page number 229. So first is, council of minister consists of all categories of minister: cabinet minister, minister of state, and deputy minister. But on the other hand, cabinet is a smaller group consisting of senior ministers holding important portfolios such as defense, finance, home, and etc. Second is, the prime minister may or may not consult the other ministers below the rank of the cabinet minister. But the cabinet ministers are the most trusted colleagues of the prime minister. The prime minister always consult them. Third is, in the day-to-day working of the government, the council of ministers as a whole rarely meets, okay, but the cabinet meets frequently as soon as possible. Fourth point is, according to the constitution, it is the council of ministers which advises the prime minister, but in the actual governance, it is the cabinet which advises the prime minister. So this is the difference between council of ministers and cabinet. Next question is, we are to mention any 3 legislative powers of the cabinet. Okay, so the answer to this question is on page 229, introduction of bills. First is introduction of bills. All the bills which are introduced in the parliament, 90% of the bills are introduced by the council of ministers. Second is source of information. The ministers, along with the secretaries of the concerned department, they answer the questions put to them by the members of Lok Sabha and thus provide information to the public through their representatives. Next is amendment to the constitution. So you are to be damn sure about the amendment in the constitution. The question of this kind have been asked in our specimen also. It is the parliament which can amend the constitution, but it is the council of ministers which can bring amendment to the constitution. Okay, it is the parliament which can amend the constitution, but it is the cabinet which brings amendment. Third is summoning the houses of parliament. We know that the parliament is summoned by the president, but it is on the advice of the cabinet headed by the prime minister that president summons the parliament. Next question is, we are to mention any 3 emergency powers of the cabinet. The answer to this question is on page 230. Emergency powers. Okay, so we know that there are 3 types of emergency under article 352. It is national emergency, also known as general emergency. Under article 356, it is the failure of constitutional machinery, also known as president's rule, and under 360 article under article 360 it is the financial emergency. So these are the three types of emergencies which are though proclaimed by the president, but it is the cabinet which advises the prime president to declare proclamation of emergency. Okay, so these are our questions. Now we will move to the MCQs. First is, what happens if a non-member of a parliament is appointed as a minister? Okay, so we are to tell the circumstances when a non-member becomes who is non-member. Non-member means the person who is not the member of either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. So what happens if a non-member becomes member of Council of Ministers? Option A, she has to become one within 6 months of appointment. B, she has to become the member in the next election. C, she can defer the appointment until she becomes a member. D, she cannot be appointed. So we are to answer this question. So the answer to this question will be option A. Any person who is not the member of Council of Ministers, he can become the member of Council of Minister on the condition that he has to take the membership of any one house, either house of the parliament, within 6 months of his appointment. Second MCQ is, we are to identify the methods by which the parliament maintain control over the executive. So इसका आंसर आप मुझे मैसेज करके बताएंगे. P, by passing a vote of no confidence. C, by changing the Council of Minister after every 6 months. Or by electing new Prime Minister after a gap of 3 years. S, by passing an amendment to a bill against the wishes of the government. So we are to answer this question, and there are 3 options to this question. Four options. Option A, Q and R. B, P and S. C, R and S. D, P and R. So you are to answer this MCQ, and you are to send your answer to me by personally messaging me. I hope you have learned this chapter. So please revise this chapter. Thank you so much.